Here's some hard truths nobody wants to hear, but I'll trigger you anyways. Everyone wants to feel better, but almost no one wants to take responsibility for the life that they keep choosing. You say you're doing the work, but are you actually changing? I see an epidemic of people who are saying they are doing the work and all the techniques, but nothing actually changes. You say you're healing, but you're still entertaining the same people, reacting the same way, escaping through the same habits, waiting for a miracle while avoiding every single choice that would bring you closer to it, right? You've spiritualized your avoidance, romanticized your stagnancy, and actually managed to intellectualize your pain so much that you've convinced yourself you're evolving just because you gain more knowledge, when all you've really done is gotten better at explaining why you're stuck. Healing is not how well you can talk about your trauma or how many labels you can find to hide behind. It's how often you stop choosing it. You tell yourself you're tired, that you need more rest, more space, and more distance, more time for yourself, more softness. Let's just take it slow. But the truth is, you're not tired. You're just completely undisciplined. And I did a whole video about that. You have no structure, you have no boundaries with yourself, you have no follow through whatsoever. You disrespect your own word every single day and then wonder why you don't trust yourself. Make that make sense. You say, I'll do it tomorrow. Like tomorrow is some guarantee, right? Like you're actually going to do it tomorrow. You've been saying that for the past 10 years. You scroll instead of sitting with your truth. You cancel the workout, you skip the journaling session, and I'm talking about intentional journaling, okay? Not just I'm journaling about my feelings and not learning anything. That's not journaling, okay? That's just blindly writing and hiding behind yet another spiritual concept. You don't drink water for 8 hours and call it self-care because you protected your peace by avoiding your to-do list, something that stresses you out. You ran away from stress yet again. You let yourself off the hook in the name of healing so often, but all you're doing is actually just enabling the version of you that doesn't want to grow. That's not compassion, that is self-abandonment. And guess what? You're wondering why nothing in your life changes? Well, look at your habits, look at what you're doing. You're bypassing any kind of work possible. Of course, nothing's changing because you're just attracting more of the same shit. Nothing changed internally? Guess what? Nothing changes externally. Then you say you're intuitive, but most of what you're calling alignment is actually just fear. And that is why the word alignment is being so thrown off from what it actually is. And I love the word alignment, but most people just keep misusing it and using it to hide behind their fear. You avoid discomfort not because it's not right for you or it's a sign that you shouldn't do it, but because you never learned how to hold your power through it, how to hold yourself through it, your nervous system through it. You keep quitting before the momentum even has a chance to meet you, before you even gain any kind of momentum. You call it misalignment when really it's just your resistance. You say you're protecting your energy, but all you're doing is isolating. Because it's easier to be alone than to face your triggers and the parts of you that activate within the connection. So you only claim you want deeper love, but you actually run from it every time that it gets real. Why is that? You say you want to expand, but you shrink and make yourself small the moment it requires actual change, the moment you actually need to change, the moment you actually need to show up for something. You say you're manifesting, let's say, wealth, but every single action in your day just reflects more scarcity, more avoidance, more poverty, more money-related stress, and more hiding. You cannot manifest a life you're not behaving in alignment with. Do you see the contradiction? And energy doesn't lie. You're not blocked. You're not stuck. You're not plateauing. You're just still choosing what's familiar. And as long as you keep doing that, nothing changes. Again, you think you're being gentle with yourself and taking care of yourself and in your soft girl era and winter arc and whatnot, but really you're just enabling your own avoidance. You're just hiding behind even more intellectual knowledge. But there's no integration whatsoever. There's nothing self-loving about postponing your purpose, wasting your potential, about still playing small to not step on anyone's toes, about staying in relationships that really drain you, about scrolling yourself into the emotional shutdown that you need so bad, and then calling it rest. When was the last time that you actually made a hard decision and followed through? And I'm talking about an actual hard decision, not whether you should post now or not. When was the last time you told the truth? Even when it shook your voice, when your voice was trembling, and when it triggered the shit out of you. When was the last time that you got out of bed and actually moved your body because it deserved to be respected and not punished? When you actually just did it, even though you did not want to do it because the motivation was not there? When was the last time that you held yourself through discomfort instead of running away from it, instead of distracting, instead of escaping it? The truth nobody wants to hear is most people want to feel better, but don't want to live better. They don't want to do what is necessary to actually become better. You want the outcome without the effort. Well, that's easy. You want the healed version of you to magically show up while the current version of you keeps ghosting her goals. But that's not how it works. You cannot cry about being stuck if you're not doing anything and what it takes to get unstuck. You cannot talk to me about alignment while choosing the same misaligned crap every single day. You cannot keep replaying the same victim narrative in your head and expect your life to rise above it, to just suddenly change, to become everything you've ever wanted. That is not the right kind of delusional. And no, all of these things are also not happening because you're unworthy, because you're not unworthy. You're just responsible. You are responsible. You don't need more time or another course, another podcast, another hack, another whatever. You need to stop wasting the time you already have. You don't need another self-help book. You don't need another full moon ritual. You don't need to find yet another influencer or coach or YouTuber, whoever you're following, to show you something new, some more knowledge. You just need to stop hiding from your potential. If you really want to heal, you are going to have to do the thing that you've been avoiding again and again and again and again and again until it becomes who you are. Not because it's fun or easy or inspiring, but because you've said you were done living the same story over and over again. That's when the shift happens, when you actually integrate the knowledge that you have, when you actually take action, the right kind of action, when you actually do something about it to align your frequency, to become who you want to be, to do what you need to do. That version of you isn't far away, okay? That version of you is not some far-fetched concept. That version of you that you want to be is just suppressed underneath your ego, your superiority complex, your blame, your avoidance, your distractions, underneath all of these excuses. It's buried under all the stories that you refuse to let go of. But it's in there, in here. And the only way it can surface is through action, through embodiment, through choice, through self-respect, through discipline, through radical honesty, through actually choosing yourself. So ask yourself this: what are you still pretending not to know? What pattern are you still justifying even though it's draining you? What version of you do you keep feeding even though you know you've outgrown her? What would your life look like if you stopped performing healing and actually embodied it? If you stopped seeking the path of least resistance and started walking the path that is actually meant for you? Even if it's steep, even if it's scary, even if no one claps for you until you arrive. Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not me, not any coach that you have, not your therapist, not your astrologer, not your cards, not your friends, not the universe, not God. You save you. Every time you choose differently, every time that you interrupt your patterns, every time you show up again and again and again and again for the version of you who's done being a victim and hiding behind the excuses. That's when your healing becomes power. That's when your pain becomes the wisdom, when your wounds become the wisdom. And that's when your whole life begins to change.